All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to give it about another 10 seconds while folks are just joining. So we don't have to keep repeating ourselves, but excited to have you here with both myself and Professor Mohan Birsani. And like I said, I'm going to give it about another 10 seconds until we really get kicked off here. Awesome. Okay. Well, it looks like we've starting to get some good numbers. First of all, as we get kicked off, I do want to point out a couple features of the webinar platform just to make sure that this is engaging and fun for everybody. One, I've seen some people are starting to kind of introduce themselves in the Zoom webinar chat. Would love for you to just let us know where in the world you're chiming in from. So my name is Brent Williams. I'm one of the program leaders here today, and I'm in Chicago. And so, yeah, if you just want to type that into the chat and make sure you switch to all panelists and attendees so we can all see it. So with that, welcome to this webinar, kind of introducing you all to what you could be experiencing if you choose to join the Digital Marketing and Strategies course, Data Automation, AI, and Analytics. As I said, my name is Brent Williams. I'm one of the program leaders for the course. And I'm really lucky that, as are we, to be joined today by Professor Mohan Birsani, who's the McCormick Foundation Chair of Technology, Clinical Professor of Marketing, and the Director of the Center for Research and Technology Innovation at Northwestern Kellogg. So he'll be speaking more later, but I guess, Professor, you want to briefly say hi before we move on?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everybody, and wonderful to see people coming in from all over the world. So I'll be back a little bit later in the webinar to tell you more about the academic content of the course.
Great. Awesome. Thanks, Professor. With that, I'm starting to see lots of, folks putting in here in the chat. I've got Elena from Florida, Laura Racina from Brazil, got some folks from Singapore, New Jersey, Boston, Peru, Mexico City. So one of the great things
Nairobi and Zambia also, which is great.
Yeah, that is awesome. I always feel like we're lucky. We have such a broad, diverse set of folks that are in this course from all over the world. Always a great perspective that folks bring.
Chris is from Liechtenstein, one of the smallest countries in the world. That's fantastic.
I didn't see that. Okay, yeah. That's a good catch, Professor. Okay, so yeah, so folks from all over, really. So now that you all hopefully gotten a little bit comfortable with that chat box, a couple of things. One, once you've done that, would love to have you all also put in what brought you today. Maybe what you're curious to learn more about, and potentially what we can answer for you. If it is a specific question like that, I would encourage you to use the Q&A box. If you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little button that says Q&A. The Q&A is really helpful because at the end of today's webinar, we will be specifically answering content-related questions, and program support, who's also on to help us, will be answering your questions about logistics, timing, tuition, weekly webinars, stuff like that. So specific questions put in the Q&A. If you have more of a general comment, the chat box is great. So with that, we'll cruise on. I am kind of want to start off by giving you all a little bit of a top level overview of the background of the program and the way that we're actually going to structure the learning before I hand it off to the professor who's going to talk about content. So one of the first questions we always get is, why marketing at Kellogg specifically? Lots of places you could study, but why Kellogg? And there's really two big reasons. The first is that if you look at any of the rankings, but specifically US News & World Report, that's really often the most commonly referenced ranking, Kellogg is the #1 school in the world to study marketing, and you'll consistently see that. And the second thing is that if you look at the history of marketing, Kellogg professors are consistently involved in generating new innovative ideas. And so even if you just see this, Kellogg's always believed that marketing is more than a function or discipline, but a mindset, a way of looking at the world that is customer focused, insight driven, and ever evolving. And so we'll talk more about that today, but the importance of being insight and data driven, and that's becoming more and more important in the marketing world. So with the question that we get frequently, who is this for? The mix of people in the class always changes, but we see some consistent personas that get a lot out of the course. And the first tend to be seasoned marketers. So, professionals hoping to gain kind of an end-to-end perspective on the modern marketing process, but specifically with an emphasis on data, get a lot out of this course. Throughout the course, you'll see us talking about everything from, just broad ways you can be using tools to the places in your organization that as a marketer today, it's becoming more and more important that you are data focused and aware, but specifically because marketers are being required and really focused on to drive revenue more today than ever before. So we see seasoned marketers getting a lot out of the course. Customer and product specialists, so people whose specific role is around attracting and retaining customers, or some kind of strategic development and delivery of a product or service, also get a lot out of the course, because we'll be talking about things really in depth, like the customer experience and the customer journey. So those folks also get a lot out. And lastly, we see innovation and growth leaders, who are responsible for driving kind of new initiatives and growth. Back to when I said before, more than ever, marketers are being leaned upon and expected to drive revenue, to introduce new product opportunities into the market. That's what this course is really targeted at helping you with. And throughout the course, because we think so much about the customer journey, you'll understand kind of more of those opportunities. So as I said before, we're really lucky to have Professor Mohan Sahni with us, who has such a broad array and deep array of marketing experience, globally, scholar, teacher, consultant, and speaker in business innovation and modern marketing. He's published 7 books, the most recent of which is called The Sentient Enterprise, which was on the Wall Street Journal bestseller list, and consults for large, impactful companies all over the world: Microsoft, Facebook, Sony, Adobe, Boeing, Dell, Honeywell, Cisco, Nissan, Goldman Sachs, DuPont, Johnson & Johnson, and Salesforce. So I think one of the coolest things about, and most impactful things for a lot of students about having Professor Sahni with us is that, throughout the course, he'll share case studies from his various projects, and often, are able to, you're able to learn from case studies that you can draw connections to your own businesses and own work. So that's really an advantage that we have having him with us both on the webinar and throughout the course. So I'll use this as an opportunity to transition to the learning experience. So a question of, okay, well, this sounds interesting, but what is it going to be like week to week for my learning? How am I going to learn? What formats, etc. In general, know that we've done our best to make course content both convenient for you all and as impactful as we can. So with that in mind, the course is broken into bite-sized interactive experiences. That means each week, a series of short videos from 5 to 10 minutes, around a 4 to 6 hour commitment per week for 8 weeks. And that commitment, again, will consist of interactive videos with Professor Sahni, interactive case studies where you'll be applying the material, quizzes to kind of check your learning, as well as peer discussions, and then throughout, assignments with real applications. And on those assignments, you'll often be talking about your own work if you choose to, or you can pick a fictitious company, but we want you to be able to apply the learning as well. So that'll be part of it. And I think one of the important things, which this leads me into, is you'll have subject matter experts with you along the way. So we do split up all of the total course into smaller sections that each have a program leader like myself, who's been fairly experienced, or is experienced in digital marketing, and really can answer questions along the way, both around course content, logistics issues, maybe just feedback on an assignment, etc. So you will be able to interact with us throughout the program. And in addition to that, we do host the program leaders' online office hours, usually 1 or 2 per week that you can log on to. And even if for some reason, a great thing about the course with Kellogg is anytime we do an interactive video session like this, it's both recorded and the slides are shared. So if for some reason, you can't make a certain time, don't worry about it. We are going to share both the recorded slides, the transcript, and the deck itself. So we're going to have all that stuff. And the last piece in place that you'll be interacting with your program leaders is through the discussion boards. Each week you'll be in discussion boards with your peers, but also with program leaders in there to answer questions and kind of drive the conversation forward. Another piece of the course that is always one of the favorites are the online interactions with Professor Sani, so live faculty webinars. So like this, but with Professor Sani really driving the content, and it's an opportunity for you all to dive deeper into topics. So he will be sharing specific case studies, pieces of information. There are 4 of these throughout the course of the course that also gives you an opportunity to ask him specific questions. So just like this, you'll have an opportunity to submit questions, and we will be customizing those sessions around your interests and feedback. At the end of the program, for everybody that does complete all the requirements, and in general, the grades are completion checks. So in general, if you do the work and it is, again, the program leaders will be checking, you will receive a certificate of completion from Kellogg, which you can put onto your LinkedIn and other digital places to show people the commitment and the new skills that you've learned. And then in terms of the makeup of the course, changes every time, but like for this most recent run, we do see big chunks of folks in healthcare, consumer goods, banking, advertising, and consulting. But I think the thing that we're often the most excited around is that, over 58% of the course are from other industries. So you will have the opportunity to learn from people in other industries and see some of the similarities. There's always, I think, more similarities in the marketing, but also some of the differences. Maybe you're in B2C and you see all the B2B work going on around white papers and driving leads. Like, oh, maybe we can use some of those tactics. We consistently see students find that tactics used by other of their peers could be leveraged and useful for them. But then you also do have the opportunity, it's almost certain somebody will be in a similar market to you. So opportunity to learn there as well. In terms of the kind of work experience, it again varies, but we do see a fairly senior group in the cohort. If you look here, 11% over 26 years, 12% over 20 to 25, 28% over 16. So, with those 3 together, we've got fully, over 50% of our cohort here will be over 16 years of experience. So really a good group of seasoned marketers, and some folks that are newer to marketing as well, but opportunity to kind of share across experience levels there. We've been really excited about the feedback and testimonials we've gotten from students on this course specifically. So we do know it's going to be valuable and useful for you all in your time. I'll just pick out one of these, but if you see here, from Carlos, content was interesting, but bringing it to life with examples was very impactful. I enjoyed the range of examples in the later sections. Also the case studies, as I mentioned, Professor does get to share a lot of those, were very good in challenging thinking and applying learning. I found myself drawn in when discussing capability and building the components required. The strategic content was most compelling and interesting to me. Overall, very good course. So we see lots of this, folks that, again, got a lot out of various elements of the course. And I think the really cool thing is here, challenging thinking and applying learning. That's the best thing you can get out of this, is having your learning leveled up like that and ability to apply it. That's our goal here. And, again, like I said, the vast majority of students have awesome feedback like this that we can share with you. So with that, and I think there's one more in here that I'll share just so you can kind of see some of the different industries. So if you're in any of these industries, just specific feedback. But if I read the one here from the second one, the great thing about this is the immediate action that can be put into place within my organization and its marketing practices. So that was somebody in the media and entertainment industry. You see the banking and financial services really appreciated the examples that helped bring it to life. You know, and then, you know, someone here at the bottom, you know, more technical, they're an SEO, search engine optimization director. I like the way the program is structured. The method used to deliver the program is very effective. Video presentations with pointers and summaries, followed by quick quizzes and assignments. So these are all professionals like you, you know, who really have gotten a lot out of the course. So like I said, we designed this to be as impactful as possible for you, and we make changes frequently based on this feedback. So with that, I am going to kind of pause and shift over to the professor to talk more about the program and the actual content that you all would be going through in the program. All right. Okay, Professor, can you hear us? Oh, let's see, maybe his internet has cut out for a quick second here. So let me just see. There's not, I can always just go through. Okay, well, we'll see if anything else. If I guess for one or two of the attendees, if you just don't mind putting in the chat box, can you all still hear me and everything is good on your end? If you just don't mind. Okay, thank you, Ryan. Thanks, Stephen. Great. Okay. Well, the good news is I've taught this course several times, so this is a section I can talk to, and the professor will come back in and add deeper content when his internet gets resolved. So with that, what does the program really cover? You know, as I said, our goal, let's say he is trying to have you share screen. Let's see. Okay, Professor, can you hear me now? Professor?
Yes.
All right.
Hi, Brent. Can you hear me?
Yep, we're back. Great. So I'm going to share my screen here again. And I think we are, I was just telling him, you know, perfect timing for your transition. So.
Yeah, no, I'm having some connectivity issues. So for the moment, I'm joining on my phone, but that's okay. You know, that's all. Yeah, so let me add my words of welcome, and thanks, Brent, for taking us through the overview. So what we will talk a little bit about now is what the program will cover and what you can expect from a learning standpoint. So let's look at the learning journey. So essentially what we're going to do in these 8 modules is we're going to go through sort of several stages of what strategic marketing does and looks like. So we will begin with customer understanding. This is sort of the starting point for, you know, all excellence in marketing is a good understanding of customers. So we'll do customer discovery. We'll talk about how do we gain customer insights, how do we understand customer pain points, and what are the ways in which we are starting to use modern techniques like artificial intelligence to gain customer insights from unstructured data like video data as well as social data. Having done that, the next thing we're going to do is talk about how we can start to understand the profiles of our different customers. How do we start to understand segments? How do we do dynamic customer segmentation? And how do we sort of create offerings that are personalized for specific customer segments? Now, once we've done this, the next phase is to talk about how we engage with these customers. And this is where it becomes really important to think about your content strategy and the customer journey. So we're going to look at the journey that customers go through. And at each stage in the journey, how should we engage with customers through content that they find relevant, timely, and useful? So we'll talk about content marketing and engaging with customers with useful content, because what's happening nowadays is that if you promote your product through promotional communication, customers will tune out.
Oh, I think again it probably just paused on him. So you know, sometimes you know, some bad technical things, but Yep.
Yeah. So agile techniques to to improve the effectiveness of your marketing.
Hey,
So,
Professor, you
yeah.
cut out for like about the last 20 seconds, maybe. Just going back to like, I think you're in the midst of saying customers will tune out depending on if you just, drop information about your content on them as opposed to something that they want to hear. You cut out right around there. Oh. Okay. Let's see if he comes back.
So I'm back now on my.
Okay.
Yeah, this is just Murphy's law. Just when you're all ready and you're on a wired connection and you've got a 100 megabit connection, the network gives out. So we're back now. Okay.
So I think. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. So you were on bullet 3 when you cut out, Professor. So it was engagement when you cut out.
Okay, so we were talking about customer engagement, and then so that's sort of the third phase, which is we're going to focus on customer journey mapping and how do you design content that is relevant, timely, and useful to engage customers throughout the journey. We'll also talk about a very interesting concept of brand storytelling and digital brand storytelling, because really now if you want to create an emotional connection with customers, you have to not only tell them what you sell, but what you stand for. What's your story? What's your mission? What's your purpose? So we'll talk about brand storytelling. Then we get to marketing execution. In marketing execution, we'll talk about really how you execute and implement an always on marketing approach. So you're no longer doing marketing campaigns that go sort of, peak and low. You have to be constantly connected, constantly engaging. So it's a concept that we call always on marketing. We'll also talk about applying agile marketing techniques so that you can make your marketing decisions faster, so you can adapt and iterate. Finally, we're going to talk about optimization. In marketing optimization, we'll focus on two things. We'll focus on testing and experimentation, right? So this is where we'll talk about marketing attribution, marketing experimentation. And the next thing we're going to talk about is automation and the application of artificial intelligence to optimize your marketing. So that's sort of the analytics and optimization component. So that's your end-to-end journey. Now what we're going to do is to dig a little bit deeper into each module to give you a flavor for what you might expect. But before I do that, just a perspective here that, a very, very common question I get is this going to talk about my industry? I'm from pharma, I'm from retail, I'm from insurance, I'm from financial, banking. But rest assured that, I have pretty much worked with most of the companies across a wide variety of industries, and I'll bring that perspective to bear. We'll talk about consumer packaged goods and Procter & Gamble. We'll talk about AT&T and telecommunications. We'll talk about technology companies like Microsoft and Salesforce and Google. So we'll talk about insurance companies like Progressive, automotive companies like Tesla. So we're going to actually bring a wide variety of industry examples, but obviously, we're not going to be able to go deep into every industry. The idea is to give you frameworks and concepts that are applicable across a wide variety of industries. All right, so moving on, what we will do in the first module is set the stage by looking at how marketing is changing and evolving in a digital world. And I will frame this in terms of sort of 5 transformation themes. The first theme really is how we engage with customers is changing from exposure marketing to engagement marketing. The idea here is not just exposing people to marketing communication, but engaging them with content that they find timely, relevant, and useful. So how do we get customers to actually interact and engage with us? By providing them what I call ROE, return on engagement, which is value for the time that they spend engaging with your content. The second lane we'll talk about is the data and analytics aspect. And here, the big shift that's happening is that we are evolving beyond transactional customer data that is sitting in your CRM systems. We now have access to unstructured data, video data, social data, location data, sensor data, all these sort of new forms of information that are getting augmented into a customer data platform where you can start to form a holistic picture of the customer and create personalization that is based on much richer customer profiles than merely what they have bought from you and how they have engaged with you through transactions. So that's sort of the data and analytics piece. The third shift that's happening is from a process and execution standpoint. And here we'll talk about how we shift from sort of a sequential and waterfall approach to marketing campaign design and execution to sort of an agile approach where you're running sprints and we are leveraging these ideas of agile development from software for the marketing function. Then we'll also talk about people and organization, how we're shifting from your classically siloed and functional organization to a customer-centric organization that is organized around the customer journey and sort of brings together the sort of overcomes the silos between marketing, sales, and customer service. And lastly, the shift we're going to talk about is the underlying platforms and automation, because marketing is now moving from being sort of a manual function to really an automated function, and marketing automation is becoming central to being able to deliver and execute marketing campaigns in a scalable manner, in a personalized manner, in a real-time manner. So this module will set the stage and will become sort of the, sort of a microcosm of what you will do in the rest of the course. So moving on, in module 2, what we're going to do is to actually get into customer understanding and customer insights. I'm becoming a big believer in the direct observation of customer behavior. I think, one of my mentors used to say, buyers are liars, so you don't get the insights that you want from survey research. You really need to observe customer behavior. So we're going to talk about ethnography, building customer empathy. How do you understand and diagnose the customer experience? If you're going to build a customer journey map, you first need to understand the steps that customers go through in the customer experience. And then we're going to talk about some exciting new developments in customer insight. What you see here on the left is an example of how artificial intelligence is being used to analyze what shoppers do in a store. So what's happening here is you're looking at this video through the eyes of the shopper who's wearing a smart glass. And from the smart glass, every time they look at your brand, the AI algorithm is able to recognize when a customer looked at your brand and what they said. So you can analyze objects, you can analyze scenes, you can analyze keywords and semantics, and get a much richer understanding of how customers are engaging with you. So we'll talk about, actually this is a startup company that I advise, it's called Call Sites. So, by the way, this is something we're going to do in every module. We're going to start with the classical concepts in marketing, like here, customer insights, ethnography, and so on. But then we'll talk about how this is all changing in a digital world. So the application of digital technologies, artificial intelligence, and automation. So in the case of customer insights, we start with, what the classical approach to customer insights is, but then we build on top of that to say, what is the modern approaches that are transforming the way we understand customers. So moving on to the next module. Once you understand what and gain your customer insights, then you have to actually profile individual customer segments and to understand that there are different strokes for different folks. So one very important concept here is the idea of response-based marketing. This is data-driven segmentation, where our segmentation is being done based on customer responses. This can be preferences, perceptions, or behaviors. So we collect response data and use that data to understand what are the differences in customers. And we'll do a case study here from the telecommunications industry that applies these ideas and takes you through the step-by-step approach to response-based segmentation. But then, one of the things, again, the shift we're going to talk about is how this segmentation process is now shifting from being a batch process to a real-time process, and from sort of segments that are sort of 5 or 6 segments that you create to millions of segments. So this is the idea of behavioral marketing or automated behavioral marketing. So behavioral marketing is the idea that we design and deliver real-time, cross-channel, personalized communications to customers based on an automated analysis of customer intent, customer profile, and customer actions. So we'll take you through sort of the fundamentals of automated behavioral marketing so that you can see how marketing becomes a continuous process and segmentation becomes a real-time process. So this is in fact, in a weird sense, segmentation is not necessary anymore because you are literally personalizing your marketing communications and actions down to a segment of a level of 1. So that's sort of the segmentation and behavioral marketing. Once you've done this, now you need to shift gears in module 4 to how we're going to engage with customers, right? We understand who they are, we understand the segments, we understand their preferences, we understand their personas, but now how do we engage with them? So this is where we will talk about the customer journey, right? What are the steps and stages that the customers go through the whole decision process? And what is the information they're looking for at each stage? What are the pain points they have at each stage? And what content will be most relevant? What channels will be most relevant to engage with them? So we'll look at how we map the customer journey, how we find opportunity for innovation across the entire customer journey, and a very important idea of matching content to intent.
right? So I need to basically matching content to intent is the idea that if I understand your intent, your intention, then I can give you content that's relevant to that intent. For example, let's say that you're in the market for an electric vehicle. Actually, you're in the market for an energy efficient vehicle. So at the early stage in this customer decision journey, you want to understand what are my choices, right? I can go for a hybrid, I can go for a diesel car, I can go for an electric car. What are the pros and cons of diesel versus electric versus hybrid? So content that might be relevant at that stage is a comparative assessment of the different technologies and drivetrains and what are the pros and cons, right? But maybe at a later stage, I have decided I'm going to go electric. Now my choice is a lot more focused. My intention now is, what is the best electric car? Should I look at the Nissan Leaf? Should I look at the Chevy Bolt? Should I look at the Tesla Model 3? You know, what are the pros and cons of those? So there, content that might be relevant is the comparative assessment of the different car models and their, you know, reviews and so on. So the idea is that if you understand the customer's intention, you can match content to intent and create a better response. So that is, and by the way, the diagram I have here is another approach to sort of, is a common approach to innovate on the customer experience, which we call the ERRC grid. That once we understand the customer pain points, what are the things that we can eliminate? What are the attributes we can raise above competition? What are the things we can reduce? And what are some innovative new experiences we can create? And here, you know, we show an example of how T-Mobile has innovated and disrupted the wireless industry by sort of eliminating, you know, contracts, by raising sort of the level of content or the, you know, data that they provide to unlimited, by reducing the complexity of plans, and by creating some new things like T-Mobile Tuesdays, you know, which nobody else has offered. So that's your customer journey, customer content strategy. This is the starting of the customer engagement. In the next module, we will talk about actually how to make your engagement more compelling, more sticky, more inspirational, and how to stand up, stand out from above the crowd. You know, so far I've talked about marketing as being analytical, data-driven, automated, you know, and so on, using AI. However, let's not lose sight of the fact that marketing is also about telling great brand stories. It's about compelling storytelling, emotional storytelling. So we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that you need to be a whole brain marketer. The left brain, which is the analytics component, the right brain, which is creative. And so sort of using customer passions and pain points as a starting point for compelling storytelling. So we'll talk about how we find story ideas. What is the structure of a story? We'll use a framework called the Freytag pyramid to analyze the structure of a story. What's the rising action and the following action and so on. What are the best principles of great brand stories? We'll look at some examples and case studies, and here I have an example from Google India. And then what is really important and interesting, again, as a departure point on what is modern storytelling, we'll talk about the idea of transmedia storytelling. Transmedia storytelling is the idea that you create a coordinated story experience that connects all channels in a synergistic and complementary way. It's not sort of telling the same story across multiple channels. It's telling one story that is orchestrated across channels. This is an idea that came from the film industry. And we'll talk about how transmedia storytelling is being applied to tell great brand stories. So moving on to the sixth module, once we've sort of figured out how we engage with customers, then if you can move on, right, to the sixth
Sorry,
module.
yeah, I was looking at chat.
Now we'll talk about actually executing marketing campaigns, right? So marketing execution here, really sort of, how do we execute marketing campaigns faster, in a more adaptive way, because the world is uncertain and customer and your campaigns and your marketing initiatives need to be executed a lot faster. So we'll talk about agile development and how we apply the agile principles that we've learned from the software industry to the marketing community. And how do you go about implementing agile marketing? And how do you scale agile in larger marketing organizations? I personally have been involved in implementing agile approaches in marketing organizations, both small and even as large as Microsoft's marketing organization. And they're seeing some fantastic results by being able to come up with campaigns that are marketing executions that are quicker, that are more responsive, that are more personalized, that are more adaptive. So this is the idea of sort of moving faster in execution and being more adaptable through agility. So moving on, then we'll talk about how we start to optimize our marketing, right? We talked about execution, but now how do we improve the execution? And here a very, very important concept is marketing attribution. Marketing attribution is the idea that I need to figure out which aspects of my marketing are working better. Is my Facebook advertising working better or Google? Is my print advertising working better or my online advertising? Within online, is my paid search working better or is my organic search working better or are my own media sites working better? So this is and marketing attribution is a very complex problem because you have multiple marketing actions and multiple outcomes. So being able to figure out how to attribute the results that you're seeing to specific marketing actions is the science and art of marketing attribution. We'll talk about marketing attribution models and this idea of multi-touch attribution, which is really sort of looking at attribution across multiple channels and multiple touch points. And we'll talk about both top-down approaches to marketing optimization, which is marketing mix modeling, which is applying econometric techniques to understand how your marketing initiatives are working, but also sort of bottom-up approaches where we do cross-channel attribution through A/B testing. And we'll talk about how you set up marketing experiments. So this module really focuses on the iterative and experimental nature of marketing initiatives so that you're constantly improving, testing, and optimizing. In our final module, in module 8, we're going to actually conclude with looking at the importance of marketing automation and the application of artificial intelligence. So this is the module that focuses on automation and analytics. So in marketing automation, we're going to look at how the marketing workflow of marketing campaigns is automated and how do you create sort of use marketing automation platforms like Marketo from Adobe or Eloqua from Oracle or Pardot from Salesforce to automate your marketing campaigns. And then we're going to focus on how you actually, once you've automated your marketing, how do you improve the effectiveness by applying analytics and artificial intelligence to all stages in the customer lifecycle. We'll talk about AI applications for customer insights, AI applications for reaching customers and converting them, AI applications for, so for instance, conversion rate optimization, and then also AI application in customer engagement and customer service. So we'll look at sort of how this entire customer lifecycle is being optimized and improved by application of artificial intelligence. So as you can see, that this program is both classical marketing, but also it is modern marketing. So we're looking at sort of, so I will take you through the fundamentals of marketing excellence, fundamentals of customer insight, fundamentals of customer segmentation, fundamentals of customer marketing execution. But then we'll also build on top of that modern marketing and in a digital world, how we're starting to automate and optimize and use technology to improve our marketing communications, our marketing effectiveness. Now, the last thing that I want to sort of emphasize is that there is an assignment that you're going to do that will thread through all of these modules. So so the analogy I think about is if you think of the modules as pearls, this is the thread that you connect the pearls with so that it becomes a necklace. So in this assignment, we'll talk about a marketing transformation challenge for your company. So what you will do is throughout the course, you're going to actually work on parts of this transformation challenge. For instance, you'll start by defining the customer problem. Then you'll start to look at your plan of action in relation to customer insights, to planning your content strategy, to execution, and metrics for success. So as you complete the program, you will also have completed your marketing transformation challenge. So this is a great way to apply the frameworks, the concepts, the best practices to a problem at your company, because I find that instead of giving you a random project related to something else, why not actually help you in your job to apply these ideas to improve your marketing effectiveness? So that's the marketing transformation challenge. So that is the overview of the course, and I hope that you get a good flavor for what you can experience. By the way, this quick walkthrough of the modules was, let me give you an analogy of what I was trying to accomplish. So I was at a very fancy restaurant last week, and before you start eating, even the first course is served, they bring out something called the amuse-bouche. The amuse-bouche literally means something that amuses your mouth, right? So it's basically the chef sends out a little dish, and that dish has two purposes. One, it is supposed to sort of prepare you for the meal, and the second is supposed to give you a sort of a peek into the style of the chef. So this was your amuse-bouche. I hope this has given you a flavor for both what you can expect in the main meal, which is the content, but also, my style and how I like to interact and how I like to engage. And continuing that engagement, we will now segue to the Q&A session, where we will take your questions, and please ask anything related to either the program, the content, or the course administration. We're here to help. But your next step really is to kind of sign up on this link. So over to you, Brent, for the questions.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that, Professor. And I think we see a lot of people now trying to spell amuse bouche, which is going to be an interesting challenge.
AMUSEBOUCHE. So yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, all right. So we've all learned something.
Term. Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay. So yeah, a lot of different questions from everybody. So first of all, thank you all for putting those in. Please keep adding those Q&A questions so that we can help you as much as you can, or as with any issues. As Professor said.
As Brent had said earlier, folks, please put questions in the Q&A box, not in the chat box. Okay.
Totally.
Because,
yep.
Chat is not meant for Q&A. Chat, so please, if you have put in a question in the chat box, could you please move it to the Q&A box, because that's what we'll be monitoring.
Totally. And I'm going to cruise through a couple more logistics questions just to give the professor a 1-minute break, and then I'm going to start throwing them to him. But in terms of logistics questions we've seen, just anytime you ask about this, will the slides be shared? Will it be recorded if I miss it? Always is the answer to both of those. So any like live session, whether it's with the professor or a program leader in an office hour style, both the deck itself and the actual recording will be posted in Canvas. So you can consume that content at a time that is convenient for you. So that is never an issue in this course. It can be asynchronous if you want, but you are also welcome to join live to kind of seed your questions and get that one-on-one kind of interaction. The other thing I want to address before we move on is we got some questions about the nature of the assignments. Are there assignments throughout or just at the end? The answer is there are assignments throughout. The last assignment the professor mentioned, that marketing capstone challenge, there'll be pieces for you to answer each week, though you do turn it in the big chunk at the end to get feedback. So you should be working on it each week though, so that you can be incrementally improving your knowledge. With that, going to transition into more content related questions for the professor. So I guess, yeah, Professor Sawhney, common question, so you all have heard this, but will the concepts be applicable to small businesses? We're about 5 million in revenue. Will this be applicable for us?
Yeah, no, I see this. This is Gina's question, and I also see some other anonymous attendee questions. Are the topics applicable to small and mid-sized businesses? Absolutely, folks. There is you can start sort of, by the way, but first, let me address this at 2 levels. Are the concepts applicable to small businesses? And the other thing is, what are the tools that I should use? Or can I use those? Because, one of the autonomous attendees, Brent, is asking, when I hear terms like automated behavioral marketing, I get scared that this is for the big guys. So hang on, folks, there's good news. So from a concept standpoint, understanding your customers, gaining customer insights, understanding customer segments, figuring out your content strategy, completely universal. I don't care if you're B2B, B2C, small, big, medium, these are completely universal concepts. So the fundamental concepts of, customer insight creation, the customer segmentation process, and the marketing execution process, applying agile, they are completely universal. So don't even worry about this. I'm B2B, I'm pharma, I'm retail, I'm small business, mid-size. These are completely universal concepts. What will vary, what will be different is the tools that you use, right? So if you are a larger enterprise, you will be using a sort of scaled marketing automation platform. The 3 most popular ones are Marketo, that Adobe offers, Pardot, which is the marketing cloud from Salesforce, and Eloqua, which is a company acquired by Oracle. So you'll have these bigger platforms that provide you with the end-to-end marketing automation, the Adobe Experience Platform, for instance. However, if you're a small business, there's a parallel set of tools, which we will talk about in the course. So give you an example, 2 popular ones at the sort of for small businesses are HubSpot and Hootsuite. So with HubSpot and Hootsuite, you can get started with your marketing, execution across channels And these can literally, you can start with a subscription of $50 a month. So you can, even as a small business, get started with these tools. Similarly, if you're doing content management, you might have a scaled up content management platform, that Adobe provides, Adobe Content Manager. But if you're a small business, in fact, I have a website, and I'm a person of I have one employee in the consulting work that I do. I use WordPress. So you'll use WordPress, you'll use Squarespace, you'll use, techniques like, tools like that. So whether it's content management or whether it's marketing automation, there are tools for every size of business. And therefore, don't worry if you don't have a limited budget. All of you will find ways in which you can enter into this marketing automation and marketing execution at the budget and at the level that makes sense to you. So this is, so this is really, we're going to talk at various points about tools that you can use across the spectrum. We will also provide you with a resource library that will give you an overview of the different tools and even the certifications that you need to get as a follow-up, what we recommend if you want to get further trained. Because we will not be getting into the tactics of each tool. We can't do that in this course, but we will give you a guideline on what are the areas you should be focused on.
Okay. I think a similar kind of question, Professor, around, just to get the big ones out of the way, B2B versus B2C and opportunities to either overlap those or just make sure that they're getting content for each of the two areas.
Yes, you will. In fact, in the examples, in the case studies that I use, we will constantly sort of go between B2B and B2C. One of the biases that I do see in marketing courses is that there's a lot of emphasis on consumer, B2C, but I spend a lot of my time with B2B companies. If you think about Salesforce, a company that I've been working with very closely, Microsoft, and even I'm going to be with Adobe next week in Mexico. They are mostly B2B companies, right? You might think of Adobe as, wait a minute, that's because no, Adobe sells everything through enterprises, through partners. So we will discuss a lot of B2B examples and as well as B2C. Now, there are, again, differences in flavor in marketing execution. For instance, if you're a B2B marketer, the channels you'll use, the techniques you'll use will be slightly different. For instance, you're going to rely on business-focused channels like LinkedIn or Quora. You're going to rely on techniques like infographics and webinars and events and also through partner marketing. But the fundamental principles remain the same. The customer journeys become a little more complex, they become a little more drawn out, but the framework of customer journey mapping and content strategy remains the same. So we will, rest assured, cover both B2B and B2C.
Okay, awesome. And question around kind of the inclusion or not of content on social media strategy and content strategy, and how deep of a level should they expect to get from that?
Well, so when we talk about social media strategy, I mean, basically that involves two things, right? One is sort of the content as the strategy that you want, and the content that you need to create for your social channels. And the second is the execution, and what social channels should you use, and how should you optimize your execution across the social channels. So from a content standpoint, we will talk about how you adapt content to the different social channels. What is the difference between a Pinterest and a LinkedIn and a Facebook and a YouTube or an Instagram. We will talk about sort of, what works well. And this is what particularly I'm going to focus on in transmedia marketing. In transmedia marketing, we'll talk about using the strengths of each medium or each channel in unique ways. So what you do on Facebook is not what you do on Instagram or on Twitter. So we'll talk about sort of differences in content strategy across the different social channels in a way to optimize. Now, as far as sort of the tactical details of how you optimize Google for Google Analytics or how you optimize your Facebook through Facebook Analytics, there's a level of detail that we will not be able to get beyond. So this is where we will point you to tools and certifications that will help you to optimize the specifics on each platform, right? How do I make my Facebook ads perform the best? How do I make my content on Instagram perform the best? That is something that we will not be able to get into the specifics of the tactical execution, because this is a strategic marketing course. As you see, the people here who have 15, 20 years of experience, they will not be necessarily doing the tactical execution of each social channel, but we will point you to resources that will help you to get a deeper understanding of the tactical execution elements.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a common question and super helpful to kind of delineate, places where we'll be able to really go deep,
right,
versus not. Professor, a question from Nitin Sablock. He says, or they say, I attended the product strategy course last year and loved it, hoping this supplements that from overall product management standpoint. Would you say a target audience for this is also product leaders?
Yes, Nitin, because particularly when you look at product strategy, and if you took that course, you know that there's a distinction we make between kind of the inbound product management and outbound product marketing, right? So this course will actually be very helpful if you are in a go-to-market role as a product leader, right? So if you're looking at product marketing and execution, the go-to-market strategy. Right, because this obviously is a marketing program, right? So marketing program is more relevant for people who are in product leadership role focused on product marketing. With that said, there are other aspects that you might find helpful as a product leader, such as the customer insights module. In the customer insights module, you need customer insight and customer understanding for building products or for marketing products. But overall, I'd say that 75% or 80% of the flavor of what product leaders will get out of this particular program will be on the go-to-market side, on the outbound side of the marketing execution, product marketing side. And some of the content will be relevant for people who are in product building roles. So that's how this program connects with the product strategy program.
Totally. Do you, and we got to have a question here, just I think the common challenges of, will you be sharing ways throughout the program for folks trying to improve marketing with like very limited budgets? So I think maybe the agile portions or other places where this could be really helpful even for folks with limited budgets.
I will be talking to you about how you do it on a zero budget. How is that?
Yeah, it's
In
very
fact, I wrote an article which I'm happy to share with anybody on the call. It's called $0 marketing. And this is the idea that, you don't need a lot of money. You know what you need? You need a hacker attitude. This is something that I call sort of, growth hacking. So growth hacking is the idea of how do you become creative and take a guerrilla approach to your marketing initiatives. So you can do a lot of, so for instance, content marketing is something that doesn't cost you money, right? It's basically you create content that's relevant. Let me give you a very quick example, Brent, to walk people through. So to make this very real for people who are on limited budget or no budget. I have a friend, she has she's a designer. She does clothing, right? So she has a website and she still sells her dresses online. So she comes to me and said, hey, you work with these big companies, the Fortune 500 companies, help me out. I'm like a designer. I have zero staff, zero money. So I said, okay, what do you do on your website? She said, I have my catalog. I have my dresses. So I said, how often do people buy dresses from you, the average customer? She says, once a year because my dresses are $300 to $400 a pop. I said, how often, what do you have on your website? She said, I have my catalog. I said, how often do you want people to come to your website? She realized the problem, that if they come to her website only to buy clothes, they're going to come once a year because that's the buying frequency. So I asked her, I said, how do you make your customers engage with you every week if they're only buying once a year? So I said, here's how you do it. You first create a newsletter, and the newsletter, you give them content that's relevant. I said, her value proposition was her clothes are versatile. So I said, use versatility as your value proposition and send a blog, write a blog, send a weekly email. For instance, how do you take a dress and dress it up? How do you dress it down, right? How do you accessorize? What is casual Friday? What is, business casual? So, so these are, this is content marketing, right? So the idea that you give content that's relevant, that draw people in, and that makes them engage. So she started to do that, started with a newsletter. Then she attracted people to her blog and she got subscriptions to that. And she started to see people engaging with her on a continuous basis because you're giving them something of value every week, right? So that is, but this doesn't cost a lot of money. So please don't be intimidated by budgets and, that I don't have money or I don't have resources. Do you have a can-do attitude? If so, welcome to this course. I'll teach you how to do marketing on a zero budget.
Love it. Awesome. I guess as we're getting closer here, just a couple more questions and then we'll kind of try to wrap up. But I think we're getting, a number of questions from folks, maybe around the required level analytics understanding and how deep to kind of think that they're going to be going on that? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so so let me sort of say this very clearly. I assume no prerequisites. I assume no prior knowledge of marketing techniques, marketing platforms, marketing automation tools, or analytics concepts. Everything that you will be asked to do, whether it's your multi-touch attribution models or how you do marketing experimentation, we will explain it from scratch. So so basically, we will start from ground zero. And don't assume that you need to know how to write software code, or you need to know how to run these marketing automation platforms. So we're going to assume no prior knowledge, and we're going to take you from there.
Yeah, and just a note: 4 people have requested that $0 marketing article, so we'll have to track that down, Professor. And
yeah, I will. Let's make sure we post it as a follow-up link. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then I think maybe one more question, then we'll wrap. Is people that are concerned, I guess, about the specific industries that they're in, or maybe they think several people are, hey, I'm in a really technical B2B industry. Have you seen people in these more really technical industries get value out of this course? Even if they're in like a very niche industry.
So Brett, let me tell you a story, because obviously I've seen this movie before. I've heard this question before. So I was working with I was in Seattle, and this was a few years ago. And I said, and I was at Boeing. I was working with the Boeing marketing organization, and I said, let me tell you about a company that has a $20 billion product that is based in Seattle, that is worried about commoditization, where the competition is able to copy and pirate and all of its features, and it has been around a long time. It's a highly profitable product, but they're worried about what the future might hold. And they're like, Boeing? I said, no, Microsoft Office. So if you really think about, so the observation I want to make, Brent, is for all of you on the call, you are more similar than you think. I sometimes joke with people, say, you know what? You say you're unique. Yeah, you're unique, just like everybody else. So the underlying principles, folks, of marketing excellence and digital marketing excellence are common. So while I cannot cover every industry, be clear, I see people here talking about news, they're talking about financial services, private banking. I can't get into private banking in specific, but what I will teach you are principles that you can apply to any industry. This is the power of frameworks. The power of frameworks is that they have applicability across contexts. Now you need to then contextualize it to your industry and your business. That is what that assignment will do. So while I will definitely cover a wide variety of industries and case studies and examples, but I'm making no promise that I will discuss case studies in private banking and case studies in agriculture or case studies in public sector. I simply cannot do that. No program in 8 weeks can do that. But with that said, will the principles be applicable? Will the concepts be applicable? Will you get value if you're in a technical business, B2B business, financial business? Absolutely. Principles are general. Principles are universal. That's what we'll try to do. And then you get the opportunity to apply it and contextualize it to your specific industry. So thanks, thank you so much for all of you to spend this hour with me. Sorry for some of the technical problems I had with network connectivity, but I hope that the questions were addressed. And I really look forward to seeing each one of you sign up for the course on the link below. Over to you, Brent, for the conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. So first, thank you, Professor, again, for sharing so many good thoughts. And for everybody else, 1, the link is here at the bottom of the webinar. 2, we've shared it in the chat. And 3, we will be sending a follow-up email with both a link to register and a link to the article, the $0 marketing article that Professor mentioned. And the last thing I will say is if you do have additional questions, the team has set up a specific email address for you. It's in the chat box. You can just email kellogg@emeritus.org, and we will get back to your questions and make sure that you have the information you need, either for yourself or for maybe a boss or someone that has to approve the course. So we look forward to seeing you. I hope to see you in the course, and I'm sure the professor does as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you, and look forward to seeing you in the course. Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.